So I wasn't going to roll today, but it's early. My plans, brief plan to go out, only because I'm struggling with it, is not really for a few hours. And I've been up for a little over an hour, and I thought I'm not going to get back to bed. So here I am. I mean, I might get back to bed, but I wouldn't necessarily get back to sleep. And I'm so glad that the dog just reset down after I turned off the radio. Just looked up, but then put his face back down on the ground and was laying there just fine. The dog. So, but yeah, I felt that I wasn't, yeah, likely to fall back asleep because I've been up too long. I haven't had a lot of coffee, and I do feel very slow this morning. But um, just one moment, please. And it's unfortunate because I don't have to go up for a while to sort of have him up there. But if he's going to be distracting, it's either that or I give him a rawhide, but something to the dog something to chew on. But he sometimes he doesn't seem to want that lately. It's really weird. I should actually, as soon as I put that there, I thought if somebody tunes in and realizes I'm in the kitchen, and this might give it away. Okay, he seems to want this. From in the kitchen, he might just be kind of watching quietly, but oh well. Too late. Here I am now. Taking a while to get an appetite this morning too. I have something that new. I have something that I like to make. It's somewhat unique. Um, However, it has an ingredient in it that I also put in other stuff, and I've just been eating so much of it. I'm kind of not really. There's something I might get today, but I have to wait till my appointment slot, which might be, which I had also put in this particular item. And even though it's very dilly, I quite liked it. Uh, definitely ringing. Um, but I don't think I feel the hunger to cook yet. So there you have it. Okay, but that seemed to have worked, and hopefully I do have to moment, but I can wait a few minutes. The coffee. I'm gonna wait till I'm eating more though. Is this better like this because it blends into the color of the couch? Wait, no, it's still. I'm going to move this for now. I don't need it. Welcome. Glad to have you here. So I've only been rolling for about 3 minutes, but yes, what's something that well, you probably have read the title, but just in case, because I know that some people will come to YouTube that like to watch stuff, but they may not be very literate. However, they might use speak to text. However, I don't know how they do that when I'm also playing, unless they can pause it. Or unless I pause. Sometimes what I find when I make these titles is that, it's not that I'm, it can be a bit of both. It should be a bit of both as far as like, um, as far as like, uh, getting opinion and giving opinion. And sometimes I don't think about, you know, I don't think things up before I start. But, so I seem to have something on my hat here. It's an old hat, but whatever. But, um, I can sometimes pretty quickly think of something. I really wasn't going to go live today. I really wasn't, but it's hard to get through the long days sometimes at this point in time in my life. And I enjoy having the company and having a chat and sharing some thoughts and maybe even some music. So there's somebody briefly there. I don't like any of those things actually. Oh come on, you're human. You do. Maybe you don't really need it a lot right now, but they are human needs, and we all need them from time to time, and sometimes often. Anyway, And asking an opinion could also be asking like advice. It's true. So if I was to do that, what would I ask advice upon? Um, just looking up the hourly weather. But from what I remember reading, almost as soon as I have to. Oh no, sooner actually. And much of the day. Rain, 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 rain. Into tomorrow, into tomorrow as late as 9. It's showing. Anyway, so yay. Although I really only care about today. I mean, there was something I was going to try and do tomorrow. That the one thing that been kind of speaking about on here that I did do the other day, but it's worth giving it another try, maybe. But what can you do? I don't know what I want opinions on, to be honest. This doesn't really relate to it, but it's a quote I have open in a quote book here that somebody gifted me. Happiness does not depend upon getting other people's approval. It depends on getting your own approval. And I said, I'm biased, so I like both. Yes, I responded to the quote. Well, we all do, even if it's just in the thought, whether we express it or write it or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know. It's both a mixture of not being awake enough. Honestly, I think this is another topic. Well, maybe not for today, but definitely for upcoming. And in fact, I can say not for today, but I might watch some stuff about it. But right now I'm doing this, so I should try and focus. I'm gonna have to take a wonderful transit system today. Hopefully, should both be apologetic for kind of sailing by me. I should have been on the other side of the street, but I didn't know the person who I booked it with wasn't real great. It was the one that you can book wasn't real great at expressing things and expressing. She just said northbound or something like that, and I don't speak that language. As far as directions go, for the most part, because whichever way I'm facing, north could be different. That's the biggest thing. Anywho, so if I'd been over there, but even if I'd been over there, I don't know. I guess I thought, no, that's not right because that's going to go over the bridge, and I want to go the other way. I'll just say that it sailed past me. Essentially, it should have recognized me because of this. There's another favor I need to ask them, and hopefully they will do it. Oh, that's a stupid quote. That makes me want to put this book aside. And it also doesn't seem to say whose quotes they are. They're all just anonymous, really? And that's weird. 1,000. Oh, okay. Hmm. Hmm. Anywho. So, yes, what is something that you'd like an opinion on? I put another one or two questions in the title. Uh, the one was kind of a rewording of that, I sort of feel. But yeah, I'm just wondering. I'm considering putting on my socks, but I don't want to get up and meet the dog. Get up. I could say what is something you'd like to share an opinion on, but I don't know what that might be opening. I'd rather this be kind of a growth experience for the other. I mean, it can be for me too, I suppose. But as far as like I don't know. I don't know how to say it, but I'd rather that just happen organically. Now, when I did that, it did make me think of something, which you may have guessed. However, I feel like it's something I don't talk about often on this channel, but I have talked about it. And so uh but as I think of other ones, I'm just gonna put them in the chat. Like, yes, that is religious based, but it's very specific, so people may not shy away from it. Let's put it that way, because that other word may be misconstrued. So I've thought of a couple. Like I say, the one I'm gonna put it. I have it in the chat there, but I do feel like I've kind of talked about it recently. Maybe not, a lot of back and forth at that particular time with whoever was watching, but I've talked about it. Although, can I edit this? No, I'm just going to remove it then and reword it. Prayer and also prayer versus simply hoping. I will say something that I didn't say in the other one, though, as far as prayer versus simply hoping. Like, this is not meant to be a religious video. I know that that won't speak to some people, and somewhat doesn't to me sometimes, and I understand why it wouldn't, and I don't want anybody to be uncomfortable because it gets too deep on that. I mean, if that's what people are looking for, they'll find it. But by the title, that this isn't, it doesn't say that's what this is about. But it is very general. So, but I did have an interesting thought. I did have an interesting thought. Now, I am mostly agnostic. I would say that's probably how I would define religion, um, and that I try and have hope and faith. And you do hear these things kind of talked about interchangeably, right? But um, so whenever anybody says prayer, lately I sometimes hear people say or healing thoughts or just holding hope for it kind of thing. Um, or I'll sometimes have said it too. It's like, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't exactly pray, but I do, express my hopes and desires, whether it's in conversation. Well, but when do I? I guess I'm having a hard time defining when I do. But that it can be expressed in so many different ways. I guess that's the thing, or to use a fancy word that I think would work in this situation, the caveat, as opposed to the caviar. Kind of thing. But an interesting thought that I kind of had connected to it just now as I'm thinking about it, and I have thought about it not deeply, but from time to time. This is the first time I think I've ever put it this way. Hoping might be what somebody who does not feel religious does instead of praying. Some people believe very strongly in praying, though, and they're like, oh, I'm not just hoping. If I pray, it will be answered. But then again, some say it, many don't. Sometimes it's kind of like, um, may not be quickly, may not be when we think it should be, but it will be. So I would ask those people, Okay, well, would you say then that more often, uh, they do eventually come, and how long, on average, do you have to wait for your prayers to be answered? Or would you say, oh, they'll come eventually, but then, if you were being really honest, you'd say, and I'm still waiting for most of them, or for many of them? You know, I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering. It would have been really great to have had somebody here while I was saying that, because that's a very curious question that I have. So, yeah. It's one of those. I don't know. I'm just waking up pretty slowly this morning. I mean, not that I'm super hyper most mornings, I'm not. And I slept pretty decent. But my goodness, I sort of just want to be sleeping still. The YouTube video's not doing that great. The Yet the I don't have anything much else I'm doing. I've had to restart my browser session, which I have a little bit, but I it didn't relaunch properly, and so that's annoying because it's like no. Aside from the fact that I lost all those tabs, there's no kind of there's nothing to click on except new stuff. So that's annoying. Oh wait, she did say she works tomorrow. AKA today. So yeah, yeah. One thing I think I will start doing though, it used to, well, it varies, but it definitely sometimes seems like either I just find enough thoughts, or people join the chat. But I might try and kind of do preparation beforehand, just so that I can just. I mean, I still probably wouldn't follow it 100%, but this way I can just roll and do the stuff. Um, I can be very spirited, but then also I think that it might actually speak to the fact that I don't really feel like I have a lot of guidance in life in general. So I don't know, or sometimes that I'm not very. I don't know, because there has been about 3 or 4 flash brief viewers along the top with this one, but if I was to think of, if there's no way to guarantee that doing that would have people stay and want to engage. I mean, I would hope that even when I'm not at my best, the good person that I am would be obvious pretty quickly. And I go back to this so much on YouTube. So um, I did think of one. Maybe I'll say a few things to it, and then I might make something to eat. But this might be a short one. I might not go much longer. So, um, you know, I'll say this. I'll say this. I'll say this one. Why not? So we all, um, maybe there's a different word to use, but we all judge everything, really, not just other people, but we all judge things in life because we as humans are built to form opinions. To, I mean, some people are more curious or question things more than others, but to kind of question things sometimes. And we're also born to, or we also, it's very human of us to try and understand things. I mean, I've done it, and I know other people have done it, where sometimes it's just like you don't want to be confused by something, but you're finding that you are, so you just kind of avoid it or ignore it. I mean, it can work one of two ways, right? You can do that, or you can look. You can kind of process something deeper, ask questions, right? So, um, it's an interesting topic to talk about, though, because one, well, like I say, we all do it. Some of us more than others, unfortunately, but like, um, I bring it up one because most of them don't say, which I'm mostly thankful for, mostly, and I do meet some nice people on here, and I suppose I'm not saying that people that do it aren't nice, because they just like anybody else. Like I say, they judge, they form opinions, but sometimes too quickly. Like I say, but I sometimes feel like I'm judged on here, but then also, and maybe you could say, well, taste of your medicine then. But then when I do it, I don't usually make it obvious to the other person. I mean, sometimes if I feel strong enough and I'm in a very talkative mood or whatever. But like on this one website, this one social media, I don't use a lot of them, but um, like, there are things that I like about this post, as far as like, um, like, this person is speaking about, and it's a sensitive topic, especially some, right now, but always for people, honestly, where she's talking about um, how she's not sure how to support her loved one who lost a loved one because they've never been in this situation. Um, First of all, I just want to go and take a quick look to see how the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. Okay, well, she looks to be in her 40s, maybe early 50s, but I would say in her 40s. And if you've never been through someone's passing before, or been around for someone, been around when someone has expressed that they've experienced one, I don't think this person's very aware. That's the thought that goes to my mind. I don't think they're very aware. I don't think they're really living, you know, because it happens to all of us. you know? She says, sure, she's mourning, but she's focused on being a support for the other person. Well, why can't you do both? You will find that you will naturally do both, you know? Um, just not sure how to support him the right way when he doesn't know what he needs. And I got 8 comments, 75 cares. I want to put a care, but the thing of the matter is that I think to myself, there's no right way. There's no right way, you know. So there, I'm forming opinions about this person based on their post, right? Opinions, judgment. Do you see a difference in those words? Because I am not sure if I do or not. You know, um, I did really like this person's answer though. And sometimes even when we think, oh, this person sounds kind of keeps closing, but it seems kind of well. I think you can tell what I'm thinking about that post. Sometimes if you look a little deeper though, or stay a little longer or whatever, you will actually find that you get something helpful from it. Everyone's going to say talk, but I'm going to tell you to be quiet. You don't have to talk. Exist. Exist with him in whatever capacity he needs. Maybe that's just sitting beside him so he's not alone in signing documents. Maybe it's sitting on the couch staring at the wall. You don't have to talk. Just being there is a big deal. Although I would say if you're watching my videos, yes, being there and watching for a while, more than 2 or 3 minutes or whatever is appreciated. So is chatting or commenting. Um, let him cry. Society puts a lot of pressure on men to bottle emotions up. I don't think it does as much anymore, but it does. It probably still does. And a lot of men think it does still. But a lot of men don't as much as they used to. And I also think it's a bit of a younger generation thing too. But you know what? There's different reasons why people bottle things up, and they may not have always been that way. That's the other thing. Let him cry it out on your shoulder, literally or figuratively. Also, make sure he eats, stays hydrated. Grief is taxing on the body. He's not likely going to care what the food is, and that's okay. Just make sure he eats. Make sure to keep some water close by. It's going to be hard, but make sure he sleeps. Most importantly, apply all of this to yourself. I didn't read that part the first time. Don't bottle up your own grief. Keep yourself fed and hydrated. Call in a friend to help keep you grounded. Don't lose your own grief trying to keep his. That statement was quite deep. But I think I do kind of understand an aspect of what she of this post. Maybe because of that statement, maybe because of not. We don't like to see our loved ones upset, and we possibly don't like our loved ones to see us upset. So what she might actually be asking is either how do we not show our feelings to each other, or how do we handle when we do. And again, I don't know if there's a right answer or any one particular way. I would say that do your best and feel the feels, and so there is to it. I don't know. But I am going to read this because we have a loved one that's passing away in hospice, and this person starts off with, I'm a hospice nurse. So I'm very curious what their perspective would be. There's a lady on here I've seen a few times on YouTube that's what here is, that um, tells stories of being a hospice nurse. And there's probably many people that do actually. My best advice is allow him and yourself to grieve. Everyone grieves differently. but both of you need to feel your feelings. Be there for him. Ask him what he needs. Our society as a whole is very avoidant of bad feelings. We spend our whole life avoiding them. Talk about the things you both loved about her. On the flip side of things, and for me, this is going to be hard when G's sister passed away because I didn't know her that well. If the two of you end up doing something that makes you both happy, enjoy it. Don't feel like you can't because you're supposed to be in mourning. That's a very good point. Grief comes in waves, and you're allowed to be happy when you feel happy, sad when you feel sad. I would like this. Why is it? There we go. Eating their favorite meal. So many people pass away not are struggling of eating. So I don't know about that. I'm currently in a unique job position in my job where I'm caring for a patient whose husband I had in service a year ago. If you don't think she and I spend time in each other, by the way, I once wrote a play that was somewhat inspired by. Oh, I wish I could remember the name of the thing right now. Not that long ago, I looked at it. It was a guy that reminded me of Jack Nicholson, but it wasn't Jack Nicholson. Wetherill was the and Mick Mahone were names connected to like the director and this and that, which if Paul is right and he lives with the name, um, it's actually McMahon. Anyway, I don't want to give too much away, but and then Freebird kind of was about that too. Um, if you don't think she and I spend time in each of my visits talking about him keeping okay, whose husband okay, so the husband passed away. That wasn't obvious at first. In keeping his memory alive, you're wrong. But it feels good to see her looking at his pictures, remembering things he did. She tells me stories I didn't get to hear the first time I was in her home. Do that stuff. Obviously, it's going to be difficult for you. It's feeling, feelings are feelings. All I have to say, well, obviously not because she says other stuff, is allow the feelings to come out and process them. But it's interesting to see this. Like I can give hugs and you know again, just try my best. It's interesting to see this because, like I say, G's sister is passing away, and somewhat through the process, but we don't talk about it a lot. But also, once she does, it's kind of like I'd I'd be feeling a little bit like how this person was feeling that posted this. Like, you know, if I'm being real honest though, like and I feel like a lot of the times in that kind of situation, we might say things. Thankfully, he's pretty empathetic and understanding, and there's been a couple times I thought that I did, but he hasn't seemed to think so, or hasn't reacted as if I have. But we might say things that seem a bit selfish. Well, like for instance, when I say, I want to be able to sleep and not be kept awake by this, or I want to have a good evening. He says, "Well, try to." You know, but it's kind of like. Um, um, I can't believe she didn't get Okie Dokie from Muskokie, though. Um, what I think I'm gonna be, I would struggle with in this topic, and I know this one's deep, but I didn't start off with it being so, and and all that. But oh wait, that was in there. Yeah, sort of want to wait till somebody tunes in. It's not like I haven't been saying stuff. And I don't know why it said how many did it say it had. I thought it said it had 10 new posts in this group. It must be some of the people I blocked because I don't think any of them were actually new, like that I hadn't seen. I wonder how that would be received. Well, until I know the kind of person, if it's just one person that's here and they're chatting and I know I get a sense as to how they are, then I might, you know, I'm still going to be me and mostly how I would talk to anybody else, but I might kind of cater it to the person I'm talking to. Well, now that I know that she's still there, I don't think I'm ready to hear anything. I may have just thought of something, but I don't think it's a solution that would work for us. I'd so love for the. I just don't want to call him. Be asked about what should we call it. Oh, we got two people here. Okay, great. So you're welcome to input things that you want to ask me, but I'm gonna ask something myself. And there's no right or wrong answer. And although but anyway, I don't want. I just don't want to sit here waiting. So and people may see this afterwards. So yeah, we're 37 minutes in, but whatever. I'm also thinking what I might do. Um, well, see, they're gonna feel like they deserve to know. Um, well, she wasn't. It wasn't that close to some shit. Anyway. I don't take kindly to being. Um, and she's not super behind, but she's most behind. And it just doesn't feel comfortable to call that other one. Well, I'm going to talk this through myself, I guess, and maybe it'll be helpful to somebody else going through something similar, or has been through something similar, and hasn't found the healing they'd like in it, or just may go through it, or whatever it is. Um, so it's weird. When I first connected with this one particular person, she was fairly chatty, and we were new people to each other. But well, I guess we've also talked about him. So, um, this isn't plugged in. I don't know why it isn't, but it isn't. Not that it hugely needs to be yet, but I guess it just pulled out. I don't know. Plus, it could be a long rate with that stupid repetitive music. It's called the mental health line. And I don't know. Again, there's definitely not necessarily a right answer, and I would say there's no wrong answer. But then, okay, so what I'm grappling with for those who do tune in afterwards, and maybe have seen my other videos where I have said you can skip ahead if things are going too slow for you, but you're curious, you know, or that happened to watch this much of it or who accidentally start partway through and are listening. Even though there's nobody listening right now or nobody here, which is disappointing. I'm also gonna add. Um, don't know how much of a gap there's been since I first was talking about her. Um, um, so, as I've been mentioning, G's sister is passing away. I wasn't super close with the sister. She's not local. Um, and, um, some of the things that I was talking about there. Um, but I just suddenly had a thought a few minutes ago. When she does pass away, even though there was a big age gap and they've lived in different places and sometimes they weren't great at keeping in touch, he's gonna be sad. He's sad that she's passing away too. And we can say, oh yeah, well, there's the afterlife and she'll be with us in spirit, and mostly do feel that, and that it'll be better for her once she does, and honestly easier for those that are caring for her, especially the family, when she does. Um, but it will still be sad. And I have a fair, I guess, it's hard. Well, I don't know if he'd take time off work or whatever, but during the day, actually, it would be easy. That's when I could, and then in the night, if he needs it. But the difficult thing is that unless it's a weekend, the evening is when that short window, and he has some routine as well, and well, we both do. You know, that short amount of time is when we have together. So even though I could try and find things to make me feeling good and happy throughout the day, I try to anyway, because why wouldn't I want to feel those things? Um, Sometimes it's easier than other times, you know. Um, when you have depression, when you're in a certain point in life that is hard, and the person left, but whatever, they came in right before when you had depression. Sorry if I triggered you. That's something else I'll add. Although if somebody's going to be triggered that quickly and dash off, if that's what it was, then they're not going to be spending time looking at the chat and seeing, you know. But anyway, it's hard, and you're going to be showing a mixture of things all the time, and in some ways that's not avoidable because you won't always know until you know, until and so we could say give him space, but that would happen anyway. But then the time when we're together, do I have some sort of rule in place, which I would feel like a jerk to do, where I say, I might talk about Mark Ragavan. I'm almost tempted to call Ragavan, but it's still kind of early. And Bill Passion about what these kids go through this and that might be a little bit wonky, a little bit uncomfortable. And especially if I said it and then he still said it wrong. Where I say, I would feel like a jerk to say, but when you're around me in the evening, especially during the weekdays, like I don't want to be talking about her. I don't, don't grieve. What I might say is, but the thing is even if I wasn't around it, I would know it was happening. And it is. It's one of those. I really think that that's what that person must have been getting at. You know, like she wants to let him feel his feelings. Her partner wants to, you know, understands that it's hard. Wants to, you know, um, be there. But I guess the truth of the matter is there's really nothing that you can honor the person, you can tribute the person, you can distract yourself with other things, and sometimes that's not necessarily the wrong thing to do. Some people would say, well, it's avoidance, but sometimes, especially with something like grief, I think it's okay to. It's an ebbs and flows kind of thing, right? But the two big things that I feel are really at play with this struggle that I didn't realize I was going to come up uh, is I need goodness around me. Like, I mean, I know life is a mix, but right now, with how things have been in my life, I mean, some things are decent. Decent would probably be the word. I need goodness. I need happiness more than anything else. And also also feelings of FOMO. Most of you know what that is, but fear of missing out. Whether I think deeply about it or not, and it's not always the case, but more often than not, in the past number of years, I have experienced that. So it's like the example of I don't have to wait to do something, although I maybe should have about the thing the other day, maybe a couple things. But if I don't, if I can just do something myself, do it. It's the same with that. If he's going to be grieving, even not around me, it's like, yeah, it's understandable. Yeah, I don't want to be around it, but I don't want to not be around it. I think it goes back to the um, trying to be a support for somebody, or feeling like, you know, you're seeing them in moments where they're feeling physically and emotionally weaker than they usually do. Um, and what do you do with that? I mean, other than let it, you know. I need to see that post again, I think. But I think I looked at all the comments. There wasn't that many yet. There might be a few more than there was earlier, though. Yeah, there is some new ones, so let me take a look. Has it been 60 minutes? But it's interesting how the FOMO came into it and how the not wanting my depression to be triggered, but realizing he's going to, you know, he's sensitive, and everybody's sad when they lose a loved one. I don't care your gender or anything else. And there are going to be moments where it comes kind of unexpected. Like last night, I was very surprised. The sister's daughter said, "Is there anything that you'd like relayed?" Because she's getting closer to the light. I'm glad it was a memory about something I did, but he was playing piano in the evening when he usually does, but he wasn't playing it much. But he was being fairly quiet. And I said, "What's going on?" "Oh, I'm just texting so and so," answering her. And um, he was holding it together pretty good then. But I think was able to see the positives. Like it's harder when you're right there and when you're in the same, province, country, whatever. Um, that this is probably the best thing. That her passing could is a good thing in some ways for her, and those that are, like I say, putting so much time and effort to in their days to be there for her while she's going through this. Even though she got hospice care, it's what we do with the family that we love, right? So this is really weird, though. I like this point that we all need to see the grief of others to feel normal. It's kind of an interesting point. But then she says, "I have in no way been did." I'm not going to emphasize what's not emphasized, but she's saying, "I have in no way been through what you're going through. I'm just taking pieces from the other end of life experiences I've been through." So you have in some way been through it, and this is where I judge. This is where it's like, I know you're trying to be helpful, this and that, but you're stupid. Sorry, And if you recognize that comment and think that it was you, it most likely isn't you. But maybe take a bit more. I mean, again, I know you're trying to be helpful, and that's an admirable thing. But maybe take a bit more time to think about what you're saying, how you're saying it, how it might come across. I mean, I'm a pretty aware person. I had a very toxic and critical mother. I talked with her on the phone actually briefly earlier today. She says the other thing. Hey, yeah. Well, I mean, a little iffy about something, but I'll have to make do because she's unable to help right now. But I do feel like I want to heat up. I want to top up my beverages, so I might go into the kitchen, keep cooking. I don't know if I'm going to keep rolling. I mean, this should have done better in 15 minutes, but there's lots on YouTube. People's ADHD, people's intent to come back later, whatever it is. Um, I can soothe my throat after it's sore, but it's starting to get there. Um, this is a very interesting point, though, too. Shared grief relieves the feeling of carrying it all for better than far better than hugs and words. I'm not going to read that because now I understand about that with the But I didn't realize when I first saw this post how actually it's very relatable right now, and how I'm actually a little unsure of how to navigate some things. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean there's right or wrong way, but having ideas is helpful. I hear people say people grieve in different ways, and I could maybe think up some, but at the same time, I also think no, grief is grief. I mean, how many different ways is there? Like for me, it's enough to know you're there for me when I want to talk. People who know me best will just sit there with me quietly holding hands or touching me somehow, but they know I don't feel like talking or needing to hear the normal stuff when someone close to you dies. Okay. Other people want to just get stuff off their chest and talk through all the feels. It's really hard to advise someone on what capacity they need to be there for their loved one without knowing that person. Yeah. my advice to you. But you can still try, and then I think the other person could say, would that shouldn't just necessarily hop right up and do it, but they should say, would that work for so and so? Could I do it? Would I feel comfortable doing it? And if it's more yeses than nos, then okay. And if it's not, then okay, maybe that's not the advice for you. Or you know, maybe that person might have another good suggestion, but the one they gave you isn't one for you. Um, why did I put those there again? I don't know. Other than not to wear them tomorrow? Well, if it was walking, I wouldn't have. And if I'm busing, what does it matter? Sometimes we do things to remind ourselves something and then we forget what it is. Anyway. I'm still not that hungry. I've got 2 or 3 hours a couple of hours or so before I have to head out. As far as the topic of touch, though, when that's what you're doing to support someone going through this, because this seems to be the topic of this video at the moment, um, they say if the person doesn't want it, know that there will be a time when they do, essentially. Um, I mean, for the person that I'm talking about that I live with, doing so in comfort, it's understood. I don't know if it's because of the type of connection we have or whatever, but it's understood that that's what we're doing, and it's not usually not welcome. I mean, maybe sometimes we don't like that, but anyway. This is, again, and I'm sharing it anonymous, actually, like the person did. But, even if they didn't, we have to know when, we have to know that respecting people, even if they're posting online, they're posting for the people who see it, even if that's very few, you know. But my husband's other partner has early onset Alzheimer's and may only have a few years left. They've had basically a four-way marriage with her and her husband, so I'm in the position of being there for two people as they lose their partner and of losing a friend and member of my family. Take care of yourself too. Make sure you eat and drink water. Make sure you leave the house sometimes to do something that can give you both a bit of peace. Talk when he's ready. Looking to support organizations for the kids. Give yourself room to grieve too. I'm sorry for your family's loss. Okay. Okay, that's all that was. Anyway, because people might comment afterwards, but even if they don't, I do feel like this was a good thing to have done today. I wish that it had reached more, but I don't know if I have the energy. I'm going to be multitasking in a moment. I don't know if I have the energy to go longer. So, it's like go big or go home. Well, I'm already home. Go small and stay home. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have. Maybe I just need more coffee. I don't feel like I have the energy to cook, and I'm not really that hungry. Just I have to make some. I do hope that everybody's taking care of themselves today, and I think that this is especially helpful to be doing this now. Um, I had another idea for a podcast, but I thought there will be. I mean, there always will be, I suppose. But I thought, especially with that, not that it's a bad thing, that what I was thinking of doing, but there will. I don't want to draw attention to a certain thing right now, and that there will be people who misconstrue because they don't know me and they're too quick to judge what I'm doing. And it's interesting. I'm actually very surprised when I don't hear other people's opinions more. Every now and like I say, sometimes the chat's more active than other times, but it's like I'm really surprised that people don't say their opinions more often. Whether I'm thankful or not, I don't know. Sometimes I probably am. But with something like that, they very well may. And on an occasion such as this. Um, so, and they may not be supporting in kind, even though they should be. One, they don't know me. Two, they don't know my journey, my story, my background, which are all very similar things, I realize, And I would like to think that people would think for a moment and say, okay, before I say something, I don't know this person, and those things about them. So, and they could also look and see how others may be benefiting from it. But to some people, they'll just say, no, but this is what I feel, and this is the only thing that I feel. And again, it's not necessarily a bad thing that I'm talking about, but some people react and respond to things the way they do. So, there is still a part of me that wants to go back to bed. But my throat is a little bit sore. I'm podcasting and it's just been an on and off thing lately. But also, no, I mean, I slept well enough. I don't usually do that. I've been up long enough that I probably wouldn't be able to fall back to sleep. And I don't usually get up for a couple hours and then go back to bed. Boy, do I sometimes wish, though, some of my days, some of what I go through, But, wait, not that's on YouTube, but anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I have something else, other things I want to do. But yeah. Just going to give it maybe 3 or 4 more minutes just to see if somebody tunes in because I'm really not rushed right now. I don't have to go off and, do anything just yet. So I think the thing I'm thinking of making, it just feels like it's too heavy. It's not necessarily, but it kind of is. But I don't know what else I'd be having. We do have physical goods, and we're going to be getting some stuff. I might just have to eat on the way back. If it's something I can have freaking easy. I'm tempted to try this more. But I really think I should wait. And it doesn't look as great frozen. I don't think that's what I took. But I know I should eat something, even if I'm bussing and don't really need as much energy to, get myself there and back, as well as carrying all the stuff. I certainly should eat something. I also have a bit of a sore on my inner lip. And I'm also healing from a dental thing. So there are some things most of the things that I eat really, because because I don't eat a large variety because I'm picky and all that. That are just a little bit irritate that stuff. I want to watch this. Well,